Okay, everybody, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. My peoples, where you at? I did not make that up, by the way. That little call sign actually comes from a guy named Jerry Quigley, who used to be on Pacifica Radio. I wonder whatever happened to Jerry Quigley. Anyway, he was cool. So, what is going on this week? Lots of really insane stuff, but before we get into it, this is what we're working on. This is my toast dragon. So we're going to work on coloring this while we talk about today some crazy shit. First thing we have is this really huge story that I'm sure you've all heard about. In Baltimore, a cargo ship ran into a bridge, specifically the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge, I think is what it is. Francis Scott Key, by the way, is the guy who wrote the national anthem, in the Rockets Red Blair, the bombs bursting in air. He's the guy that came up with that. Or at least I think he took the poem and set it to music. I can't remember exactly if he wrote it himself or if he just set it to music. But anyway, what the hell happened and why is everybody losing their minds over it? Because, see, we're not allowed to have anything just happen in the news anymore. Everything, of course, now has to be a giant conspiracy. So why are the tinfoil hat people and conservatives and the other usual suspects losing their minds because a boat hit a bridge? Let's get into it a little bit. So I've got here this article that I want to skim over with you guys. This is from the AP. Cargo ship had engine maintenance in port before it collided with Baltimore Bridge, officials say. So basically, it's one of these big-ass cargo boats here. You can kind of see it. We're not going to play the video. It just hits a bridge, and then the bridge collapsed, right? And long story short, it could have been way worse than it actually was. Thankfully, they were able to radio ahead of time and tell people that the boat was out of control. And they were able to get most of the people off of the bridge, although about 8 people still died, I think. And I believe they were construction workers who were filling potholes on the bridge. I guess they just didn't get the message that there was a out-of-control boat heading their way, and they went into the water. And I believe that they recovered the remains of 2 of those guys. So divers are still looking for the remains for the other 6 as of this recording, which is on the 27th of March. Let's read a little bit here, though, so that we're all on the same page. Baltimore, the cargo ship that lost power and crashed into a bridge in Baltimore, underwent routine engine maintenance in port beforehand, the U.S. Coast Guard said Wednesday, as divers recover the bodies of 2 of 6 workers who plunged into the water when it collapsed. The others were presumed dead, and officials said search efforts have been exhausted. So yeah, they're dead. And essentially what happened is that the boat lost power, and it was just sort of careening out of control. But I guess they had enough time to actually warn people ahead of time. So that's why only 8 people died instead of 80, which it could have been way worse. Apparently this is a very busy bridge. And if it just would have hit during the wrong time, luckily there wasn't like a traffic jam on the bridge or something like that. So, but these accidents happen, man, right? Bad stuff. Let's continue. Investigators on Wednesday began collecting evidence from the vessel that struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in the previous day. The bodies of the 2 men were located in the morning side of a red pickup, submerged about 25 feet of water near the bridge's middle span. Okay, and then it gives the names of the victims. One, Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, 35, who is from Mexico, living in Baltimore, and Dorlean Ronil Castillo Cabrera, 26, who is from Guatemala and living in Dundalk, Maryland. Victims were part of a construction crew. Yeah, pretty awful stuff. I'm pretty sure you all know the rest of the story here. There's a theory that the engine lost power because of tainted fuel, but according to this, that's not the case. So, as far as the engine goes, we were not informed of any problems with the vessel. We were informed that they were going to conduct routine engine maintenance on it while it was in port, and that's the only thing we're informed about the vessel in that regard. The investigation ramped up as the Baltimore region reeled from the sudden loss of a major transportation link that's part of the highway loop around the city. The disaster also closed the port that is vital to the city's shipping industry. So, as you can see, the investigation is ongoing. There's really not much else to really talk about in this article here. It talks about the actual people who went missing. Apparently, the boat just lost power, and they're still trying to figure out why. Now, you would think, there's an accident like this, right? And accidents like this probably happen all the time, and we just don't hear about them because they're usually not as damaging as you would think. Kind of reminds me about how about 6 months ago or so, there was that train that exploded. You guys remember that? Big chemical spill during this at this like really small town. The name of the town escapes me at the moment, but it became national news. It became this huge story, and because it was like this huge toxic cloud of gas or whatever. And in real life it's like, well, yeah, these types of train derailment and toxic spills happen kind of all the time, and it's sort of a testament as to how bad in shape our infrastructure is in this country, right? This one, however, is a little bit different because it's not like the bridge was ready to collapse on its own or anything like that. This was just an accident. Shit happens sometimes, and there's really not much you can do about it. You can have all the best regulations on earth. You can have all the rules and everything, and police and the right kind of laws and all that stuff. And there's still going to be accidents. And really, we can only just be grateful that there wasn't an abnormally huge loss of life in this regard. I mean, 6 people are still dead. Still sucks for the families of those 6 people, and my heart goes out to them and all that stuff. But it could have been way, way worse. But here's the thing, folks, right? We can't just have an accident in this country. We can't have anything happen in this country without it turning into a giant, ridiculous conspiracy. And that's exactly what's happened with this accident on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Because we have an entire segment of our political environment, an entire wing, an entire political party that is interested in not producing any results for any of the actual problems we have in this country, and instead is just interested in exploiting every single thing they can in order to spread fear and hatred. And that's exactly what is going on now with the accident at this bridge. It's being folded into the greater conspiracy theory mythos so that grifters of all kinds can make money from this tragedy. First thing I want to show to you folks here, this is a tweet from Andrew Tate, the Taint Man himself. Andrew Tate, this ship was cyber attacked. Lights go off and it deliberately steers towards the bridge supports. Foreign agents of the USA attack digital infrastructures and nothing is safe. Black Swan event imminent. I don't know what he means by that, but thankfully he posted a little video of it so we can actually watch it just sort of drift, and then you see what happens. The lights kind of go off, it loses power, and it's just drifting. I can't really tell if it's turning or not from this video. But see, the lights came back on, and now it's trying to, like, turn away, is what actually happened. And now it's about to hit this thing. See, lights go out again. So it's like they're losing power. They're struggling, they're losing power, right? And then you can see it's like they're just too close. They've lost control of the boat. And they're about to slam into the bridge here in any given moment. Right? Trying to turn, and it's like, well, no, it's too late. You're too close to the thing. You can't get away. And there you go. They hit it. Right? And then the bridge collapses. It's like, crunch. Oh, shit. That is pretty spectacular, that whole thing. But you can see, like, even right up before it happened, there's still cars going across it. There's still people who hadn't, like, got the message. It could have been way worse. Like, any of these, if those cars that were on there, like, just literally 10 seconds beforehand were still on that bridge when it collapsed, all those people would have died. I mean, it was just kind of pure luck that really only 8 people ended up dying from this, right? Let's watch it kind of go into the. Let's watch it one more time. See how it just sort of hits and then just everything just collapses. It's like, damn, that's some crazy shit. Now, why would Andrew fucking Tate think that this is a cyber attack? How the fuck do you hack a ship? Is that even possible? I mean, I guess, I don't know. I guess everything's computerized nowadays, right? Kind of seems like if this was a terrorist attack, though, it wasn't a very successful one, was it? I mean, only 8 people died, right? Isn't the whole point of terrorist attacks to, like, I don't know, kill people, spread terror? It doesn't make any sense. If you were going to do that, why not do something that would cause more damage, right? And hurt more people? Like, why not put a bomb on the boat or something like that and blow it up and kill everybody on the boat? You know, no one actually on the boat, nobody died. Everybody on the boat was fine. Kind of seems like a waste of time and effort for a terrorist attack. You're going to go through all of this stuff, training your people, sneaking them over the country and giving them all the training and equipment and funding and everything they need so that they can just knock a bridge down and not even really kill. I mean, I guess kill only like a handful of people. Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. But whatever. Here's another one from Andrew Tate. Listen to this. Now boats are being cyber attacked and turned into torpedoes. I mean, that kind of seems like like I just said, a pretty weak sauce torpedo. It didn't even really hurt anybody. You know, I'm sure there were probably other targets around there. Things like piers and stuff like that and other boats and that kind of thing. Kind of seems like if you wanted to cause damage, there's a lot more ways that you could cause more crippling, lethal damage. Here's the other thing I've heard people say, right? Over the last couple days. Like, they go, well, this would be an economic target. Not every target of terrorism has to do with killing people. You attack infrastructure, so it causes economic damage to your enemy, and that's totally a legit thing. Seems to me that there would be much better targets in order to cause that kind of damage. I mean, all they really did was knock down a bridge, so the people that would take the bridge would just go around. Not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe it blocks that waterway for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to clear all that debris out of there to get it usable within a couple of weeks, if even that. No, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, you know, 9/11 was a terrorist attack, and that caused like a huge amount of damage. Killed thousands of people, caused like millions upon millions upon millions of dollars worth of damage, not just to that area, but to the economy in general because of 9/11. Like, this kind of seems like a very weak sauce way to try to get that same effect. I don't know. I just don't buy it. I mean, I don't see, like, why would you think that? Like, the ship didn't even explode. I mean, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the hell kind of terrorists are these, right? Moving on, here's one from our good friend Matt Walsh. Train derailments, supply chain crisis, planes falling apart in the sky, ships crashing into bridges. I don't know the cause of this latest catastrophe, but the overall picture is quite bleak. What is Matt Walsh referring to? Matt Walsh is referring, of course, to DEI, which is what they blame all of these things on. See, it must be very, very, I guess, easy for Republicans to sleep at night, knowing how sure they are in the world, seeing how every problem on Earth can just be blamed on black people and women. That's exactly what Matt Walsh is blaming this on, by the way. That's exactly what it is. That's what he blamed the planes falling out of the sky thing. That's a reference to the problems with Boeing. There was a story, for example, a few weeks back about like a panel falling off of a plane, which everybody on Fox and everyone on the Daily Wire blamed on DEI, right? That's what he's doing here. It's a dog whistle, is what he's doing. He's whistling to his compatriots and like-minded thinkers that the actual real blame for this catastrophe has to do with companies hiring non-white people. That's exactly what it is. Supply chain crisis, train derailments. He's blamed all of those things on non-whites in the past, on corporations and their diversity hiring practices. He's blamed all of these things on that before. And this is just another one that he's doing. He's lumping it right in with exactly zero evidence I guarantee it. I guarantee you I could go on Matt Walsh's show and find within the, if not already, in the foreseeable future, a video about him blaming this boat accident on diversity hires. Guarantee it. And I seem to be not the only person who came to that conclusion, because the guy right below him answers with this. Pete Buttigieg says the cause is racism.
It's such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or there would have been, if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or there would have been, in New York was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices. I don't think we have anything to lose by confronting that simple reality, and I think we have everything to gain by acknowledging it and then dealing with it, which is why the reconnecting communities, that $1 billion, is something we want to get to work right away.
Now you notice what Pete Buttigieg just said has nothing to do with this boat hitting a bridge at all. He's talking about how infrastructure is designed in New York, which is not Baltimore. And also what he said is true. Infrastructure sometimes is designed in such a way as to confine people to their neighborhoods. You see the same kind of thing here in Los Angeles, by the way, right? Neighborhoods are divided up by freeways in Southern California. You see that a lot. You see that people, say, for example, in South Central and East LA are isolated from people north of Los Angeles, where the rich people live. You see that all the time. And that's just an example, you know, like the freeways will divide all that up. And so it basically keeps certain people, certain communities confined to certain areas, right? That's what Pete Buttigieg is referencing. And it's true. That doesn't have anything to do with this boat hitting a bridge and this bridge collapsing. But I don't know why this person here felt the need to reply with that. It's almost like they're trying to build a narrative that has nothing to do with fucking reality. I wonder why. Here's another one from a guy named Wax On, Wax Off. Not a coincidence. And what is he putting here? D's Nuts News. I smell conspiracy. The U.S. allows United Nations ceasefire resolution. Israel cancels Washington visit after U.S. allows UN Gaza ceasefire resolution. Dolly collides with the Baltimore Bridge. What does that have to do with anything? What does Israel and a UN ceasefire resolution in Israel's genocide have to do with a boat hitting a bridge? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Yet somehow these things are connected. There's no evidence that these things are connected. You see what this does, by the way? This guy here, whoever this is, D's Nuts News, I've actually seen him on here before. He's conservative, whatever, blah, 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 right? Listed all this stuff out without any kind of evidence that these things are connected at all. And what it is just the fact that he just lists it there has the user draw their own conclusion. And what conclusion are you drawing as a user? Obviously that Israel somehow caused this ship to hit a bridge in retaliation for the United States allowing the United Nations to pass a ceasefire resolution. A non-binding ceasefire resolution, by the way, which really has no force of law behind it and doesn't really mean anything, right? So I don't see why Israel would want to destroy a bridge over it when it doesn't even matter in the long run. It's not like it's going to change anything or stop anything. It's just the fact that this person listed those things. Now, there will be people, like how many followers does this guy have? I don't know, but it looks like here 100, what? Here it is. Likes, reposts, quotes. Here we go. 2,000 views. Okay. 2,000 people so far have seen this thing, and no small number of those people will now believe forever until the day they die that Israel's Secret Service, you know, the Mossad or whatever the fuck they're called, somehow, I guess what, I don't know, hacked a boat and caused it to hit a bridge, like with zero evidence at all. And that's what conspiracy theorists do. Conspiracy theorists never actually post any evidence at all. They just speculate and then treat their speculation like it's the truth, like they're facts. Here's a guy, Sheepdog Society, LLC. Even you seen it, right? I know damn well I'm not crazy. It looks more like intentional than not, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. How was it able to turn if the power went out? You are a conspiracy theorist. We watched it, folks. You saw what happened. The boat is sailing along the river there. The power goes out, it starts drifting, and then it goes on, and then it goes off, and then it goes back on, and by the time it goes back on, it's too late, and they can't turn it, and it hits the bridge. That's just shit happens. Right? So no, it didn't turn. And here's the thing, right? Like, so it starts drifting. You see, we watched it, right? It starts drifting to the side, out of control. That's what happens when boats are caught in a current. You see, just the smallest little event gets folded, like everything that happens anytime, anywhere in the world, if it hits the news, it gets folded into the conspiracy lore. Another one. This is Alex James, whose Twitter handle is actual Alex James. Does that mean that there's imitation Alex Jameses out there? I don't know. Course changed just before the bridge. This just 4 days after the terror attack in Moscow, which was blamed on Western proxies. This was retaliation, terror for terror. I mean, I don't see how these things are connected. So the terror attack in Moscow, by the way, that was ISIS. ISIS took responsibility for that. ISIS released video of the actual terrorists, like they had body cams on. They did it on purpose because they wanted to share this video and tell everybody, hey, it's us. It's very funny. Now, I didn't do a video on that, but the same kind of complete bonkers ass, ridiculous horseshit conspiracy theories are flying around about that terrorist attack too, right? That everybody thinks it was the Mossad or it was the CIA and all this other stuff. And they blame everybody except the people who took credit for it. Right? It's almost like I saw this thing. I saw this thing on Reddit where it was like, hey, we broke ISIS. Like they don't even get credit for their own attacks anymore. Everybody blames the CIA. It's like, what the fuck does the CIA have to do with that? It's so ridiculous. So, like, what's the... And so, okay, let's just imagine for a second, all right, that this was true. Like, why, if Russia, if Putin wanted to get revenge on the United States, why would they kill 8 people on a bridge? Like, you would think they would do something big, right? I mean, wasn't it like 150 people were like slaughtered in that theater in that terrorist attack in Moscow? So why would they settle with just killing 8 people on our side? Like, don't you think if it came from Moscow, if this was a terrorist attack instigated by Russian intelligence, don't you think there'd be a bomb on that boat? Don't you think it would have exploded with like a, I don't know, some huge ass explosion and killed like 1,000 people or something? Don't you think that, just at the very least, don't you think that's something they would do instead of just like running a boat into a bridge and like, oh, that's it, and then just knocking a bridge over and killing, I mean, yeah, 8 people, it sucks, they're dead, but that seems hardly reciprocal. I mean, isn't the whole point of retaliation to actually retaliate? I don't know. I mean, I guess they retaliated against 8 people, right? I guess those 8 guys were just fucking unlucky. They get to be the target of retaliation from Russia. It's like, those guys are like national heroes then, right? Queen Zig. So are we supposed to believe that the bridge just happened to collapse the same time Diddy stuff coming out? A distraction. So we're gonna like silence that. Now, this is of course linked to another story that happened this week, which we're going to talk about next, actually. The raid of P. Diddy's house. P. Diddy is, of course, being accused of sex trafficking, among other crimes. And a lot of conspiracy theories have jumped out about him, too. I don't want to get too much into it because we're going to talk about him as part of our next subject. Here's my question when it comes to this, right? If you wanted to distract from a major story in the news, this would not be good enough. So this bridge collapsed on Tuesday. It's now Thursday, and it's already old news. It's already gone. It's already gone through the 24-hour news cycle, and by this weekend, it'll be completely forgotten. It'll be completely forgotten, and everybody will not talk about it except for crazy conspiracy theorists who think it was, revenge or a distraction or some shit like that. They'll be talking about it for a little while longer. But the investigation into this, by this time next week, it'll be like this never happened. No one will remember this on the national scale. I guess you'll remember it if you live in Baltimore, because you can't drive across that bridge now. Right? And I don't mean to be a dick when I say that, but it's true. There's a reason why I couldn't remember the name of that town where that train derailment went off and that chemical spill happened. Right? And you know something? You can't remember it either. Without having to look it up, I bet you 99% of the people out there who are hearing my voice right now cannot remember the name of that town where that bomb went off, or that chemical bomb, that chemical explosion. It wasn't really a bomb. It was just they burned it after it spilled, right? Where that happened. I guarantee you, 99% of you people can't remember the name of that town unless you happen to live there. Because we live in a world with a 24-hour news cycle, and stories like this come and go all the time. So how is this going to distract from a huge story like one of the most famous people ever being investigated for sex trafficking, which is what's going on right now? How is this story has like maybe 72 hours worth of life, if even that, right? I mean, that's just a plain fact. And so if you wanted to distract from P. Diddy, why would you choose such a weak ass way to do it? Wouldn't you come out with something, I don't know, with a little bit more juice, a little bit more staying power? Who's running the conspiracy here? Like, why are they like fucking it up so bad, I guess? Why are they fucking up the distraction? Right? If they can't even distract for more than a few days, it's like, get the fuck out of here. It makes no sense. And like all conspiracy theories, if you just think about it for 2.5 fucking seconds, it doesn't make sense. Another one. Here's another guy that thinks it was a distraction. The bridge collapse sure is a great distraction from this. And he's saying, Russia's FSB says Western intelligence service aided Moscow attackers. Of course they did. Of course they did. See, part of what's going on right now with Russia, it's kind of like the Cold War's back. It kind of is, the Cold War. It's like starting up again with Russia. If you guys like don't remember the Cold War, especially you young kids out there who were born like in the 80s, you don't remember what life was like under the Cold War. I barely remember it. I was a small child when that shit happened. But what I do remember about the news before the Berlin Wall fell, I remember there was a lot of us versus them kind of propaganda. There was a lot of that. The news used to run stories about how shitty life was in Russia. I distinctly remember this from when I was like in 4th grade. A story on the news about a guy who didn't want to be a soldier and went to prison in Russia. And I remember my teacher telling me, yeah, in Russia, you don't get to choose what kind of job you have. All right, you get assigned a job and that's it. And you don't. And I don't know how true that was, right? I don't know if that's true or not. I never bothered looking it up. But it made me think about how shitty life in Russia must be. Oh, wow, that sucks. You're not even free to choose what kind of job you have. I don't know. Is that true in Soviet Russia? Did the job choose you? I don't know. Right? You didn't choose a job, the job chose you. That was just one example. Even me, as a small child, I was like 8 years old or 9 years old or something when that happened. And it still sticks to me even this day. Like, that's propaganda. That's the power of propaganda there. When you remember shit from like when you were a kid from 40 years ago or whatever now. It still sticks with you to that day. Like, that's what propaganda does. Influences you in ways that you just are not aware of. And that's what's going on right here. This is what the Russian intelligence is trying to do. They're spreading propaganda. Chances are, who's to say if there actually was any Western involvement in this terrorist attack? Maybe there was. I don't know. I'm no expert. I doubt it. I'll put it that way. I'm skeptical of those claims. I would need to see proof that, because I don't really think that the United States has anything to gain from a terrorist attack that just kills a bunch of random people in Moscow. I don't think we have anything to gain from that at all. But I will reserve judgment, of course, until proof is actually displayed to me. But you have to think about, when it comes to propaganda, what you really have to think about is like, well, who's gaining from spreading the propaganda? What does Russia gain by spreading this story? This story here is not intended to actually convince anyone in the West that U.S. intelligence services helped ISIS. This story is to basically convince the people back home in Russia. That's what this story is. That's what the Russian Secret Service, Russian intelligence is doing, excuse me, by spreading this story, is that they're using it as a way to spread messaging saying, see, our enemy struck out at us. And it ultimately will get more support for the war against the Ukraine. That's what propaganda does. Propaganda is deliberately spreading stories, whether they're true or not, which usually they're not. Sometimes they might even be true. But it's not about the actual news item or story itself. Propaganda is about using that in order to gain a political objective. The political objective for Russia right now is to keep its citizens in support for the war against Ukraine. Of course, we have assholes on Twitter spreading Russian propaganda. He, of course, has no proof at all. There is no proof at all that Western intelligence had anything to do with the Moscow attackers whatsoever. He's just spreading it because the right wing in this country is like aligned with Russia now, which is bizarre to think. One more. This guy even left us a little video. Project Tabs. Multiple detonations taking place to collapse the bridge. He forgot the S here. Shouldn't that be multiple detonations? I guess he must have been typing this from a phone or something. This guy suggesting that this attack is to clog the news cycle exposing P. Diddy for human trafficking. It's definitely a distraction from the P. Diddy coverage, but don't forget that the White House needs roads and bridges to mobilize to carry out mass arrest. Taking out bridges, roads, and whatever they need to take out will slow down this military operation. The rats are going to flee everywhere. Now, what the fuck is this guy talking about? The white hats. The white hats need roads and bridges to mobilize to carry out mass arrest. He's talking, of course, about QAnon. That's what this is. The white hats are going to go out. The white hats are the good guys within the deep state. So you have the deep state, and then you have the white hats, and they're basically good versus evil is what it comes down to. Long story short, we're not going to get too much into the QAnon lore, but that's what he's saying. He's saying basically taking out this bridge somehow stops the white hats from, I don't know, enacting their plan of arresting all of the Democrats and like executing Hillary Clinton or some shit, which is complete bullshit, by the way. YouTube, I am debunking this conspiracy theory, not spreading it. I'm debunking it. I gotta make sure you say that because your video will get kicked. But let's actually watch the video of a man saying that there's explosions on the bridge. Let's examine it for ourselves.
I just showed a video. If you go back, a boat crashed here, but you can see dynamite being let off at every single point. I'm going to do it again. So you have here, charges, boom.
I didn't see no dynamite. Did it look like there was explosions there? It kind of looked like it just broke.
On the copy before this, you can clearly see it happened 6 or 7
All right, let's make it full screen and examine it closer, okay?
times. I went right down the line showing each and every fire point.
All right,
But
show us.
my point to this video is let's not get distracted by this here.
What?
Let's keep
There's
these
no...
videos going like they'd like us to cover, but make sure you put Diddy in it. P. Diddy, Puff Daddy.
There's no explosion. Like, okay, let's just kind of... All right, let's see. Oh, okay, is that what he's talking about? That little flare there. All right. Yeah, you know, there are lights on the bridge. I don't know. I don't think I buy that either. I think that's probably like some kind of electrical fire. And then right here, there isn't anything. That's just dust coming off it. Okay, so there it actually does look like an explosion, right? But let's see, right here. Okay, right there, they're actually, yeah, okay, I can see that too. But you know what? I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I need to see more proof. I mean, because here's the thing, right? Then if you're going to put bombs on the bridge, if you're going to put bombs on the bridge, then why have a boat hit it in the first place? Like, why bother with your boat hitting the bridge if you're just gonna like blow the bridge up? Why not just blow the bridge up? Why make it look like an accident? See, the whole point of a terrorist attack, like, because this is what this guy's trying to say, it's a terrorist attack, right? Then why cover it up? Like, the whole point of a terrorist attack is to actually spread terror. So if you make it look like an accident, that kind of defeats the whole fucking purpose of there being a terrorist attack, doesn't it? I mean, I don't buy it. It's fantasy conspiracy theory bullshit. Do you ever notice how conspiracy theories are like, they're kind of like the plot to action movies? Like, why would anybody think that this would make anyone afraid? It's just an accident. It doesn't make any sense. And here's the other thing. If you're going to go with what this guy's saying, right, the guy that we just watched, saying that this is like a secret attack by the Black Hats, you know, the Black Hat Cabal or whatever, to stop the good guys from going and, I guess, like executing Obama or some shit. Like, if you're going to go with that, like, why would they only blow up one bridge? So just blowing up one bridge is all it takes to, like, stop the fucking revolution? Like, that seems like a pretty weak sauce fucking revolution to me, right? Especially when you can just drive around the bridge. Like, does that one bridge just isolate the entire city of Baltimore? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's goofy it's like fantasy. Goofy fucking ridiculous fantasy. Like, it wouldn't, like, if you saw a movie with that plot, you would walk out of the theater because it's dumb. Because it doesn't make any sense. Because it's like, that's like the plot to like a fucking made for fucking cable direct to video Steven Seagal piece of shit. Steven Seagal movies where he just pumps out one ridiculous, poorly written piece of shit after another. And like, who gives a fuck about the plots? Whatever. It's about Steven Seagal. It doesn't give a fuck. It's like, Steven Seagal is like, the shit he puts out, it's like the worst fucking movies ever made. Right? But anyway, but I digress. Just, I don't know. And here's the thing about this, folks, right? Like, you would think, okay, this is par for the course when it comes to, like, crazy conspiracy theorists and shit. Of course, they're going to come up with idiotic bullshit. And of course, it's like, we kind of expect that now, right? But they're not, it's not just that. It's not just the fucking tinfoil hat freaks on Twitter. It's actual people who should be considered journalists who are capitalizing on this conspiracy shit. People like Jesse Waters. In fact, I have here a clip. This is from MediaMatters.org. Fox News' Jesse Waters tells viewers not to fall for the official explanations of Baltimore Bridge. This is about 2 minutes long. Let's listen to what Mr. Waters has to say. But first, let me kind of make this a little small so that YouTube doesn't kick my video here.
Danish company, and if they're at fault, they owe us a new bridge. Biden wants to rebuild it with our tax dollars.
It's my intention that federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort.
Well, yeah, good. I don't see why that's a bad thing. I think that's actually what tax dollars are supposed to be for, but let's continue.
Now, this bridge is going to take years to rebuild and cost us billions. And now Baltimore, one of the East Coast's busiest ports.
I don't know about that. Why would it take years to rebuild? It might take 1 year. And why would it cost billions? I mean, they could make a bridge for under $1 billion, can't they? I mean, I hope so. Anyway, continuing.
It's paralyzed. We export cars, coal, construction materials, everything out of that harbor. And every day the port's closed, $9 million disappears. Biden says the bridge is close to his heart.
At about 1:30, container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I've been over many, many times commuting from the state of Delaware, either on a train or by car.
Okay, well, the bridge has never had train tracks, so I don't know what he's talking about, but...
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, yeah, it stops shipping, but it's not that hard to clean up. Like, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time to get rid of the wreckage, but they could have that shit cleaned up in a couple of weeks. Like, max. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a setback, but it's not like some kind of crippling blow to the economy that the state just never will recover from. No. I mean, they'll just ship their stuff out some other way, so it won't be able to go out through boat. Okay, well then they'll start shipping stuff out through rail, or they'll start shipping it through a truck, trucking, something like that. There's no reason why everything just has to sit there. No, they'll, and as far as getting the bridge cleaned up, like, I guarantee you, like, by this time next month, that will be open. I mean, unless the people in Baltimore are just super fucking incompetent. But anyway, continuing on. Let's listen to what the man has to say. He's only got about 20 seconds left.
There will be more where that came from in the next week. Made up stories, misdirection, and blame games, but don't fall for it. We have to get to the bottom of this. A cargo ship hasn't taken out a bridge in decades. And a ship, as far as we can tell, has never sustained a power failure before a bridge knocked down. We need answers. And someone has to pay.
Now, first off, is what Jesse Waters actually saying true? I don't know. And to be honest, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the way that he said it. You see, the way that he said it, that accusatory sort of conspiratorial tone, that's what actually matters. All right? The people at home at Fox are salivating over every word that this fucking crazy person says, because it makes it sound like there's a greater story afoot, that there's more to the story than just a boat running out of power for some reason, just a technical glitch on a boat. Whatever reason, the engine gets shut off and it hits a bridge. It can't, the way he's saying it there, we need answers, makes it sound like that there's something sinister afoot. And the way that he keeps putting Biden there, playing clips of Biden and saying, don't trust him, don't trust him. He's basically just making, the viewer at home makes the connection without him actually having to say it. So he's not blaming it on Joe Biden. He's not saying there's a conspiracy theory that Joe Biden is involved with at all. He doesn't say that at all. But that's the conclusion that the viewer takes when you watch that. When you watch what he just said with the tone that he said it in, that's the conclusion that you reach. And it's fucking despicable. If we're talking about propaganda, like, that's propaganda right there. Right? That's what it does. It influences you in ways that you're not aware of without you even realizing it. And how many people watch Fox News every night? 2 million, 3 million, something like that. Every single night. Just imagine, the people at home just turning this shit on and having it on in the background. Not even really listening to it, just sort of perking up every couple of minutes. Let alone the crazy guy who sits there and just watches and all fucking day. Because, there are people that do that. They just watch Fox News all day and they take that shit as gospel, right? But not even that. Just people who have it on in the background, and then they look up and then they see, oh, this is bridge and it's associated with Biden. And then they just listen to the tone that the guy says and all that. It's a very kind of subtle way of programming people. That's propaganda right there. That's one of the tools of propaganda. He's using it very well. Kind of just like that story that I told about, something, a news story I heard when I was 9 years old about how life in Russia is so shitty. The exact same fucking thing. That's why there's so many crazy people on Twitter. That's why there's so many nutbags out there spreading all these ridiculous fucking conspiracy theories left and right, because there's entire news networks out there with millions of dollars behind them, and millions of viewers spreading this shit in order to get money. And that's the really disgusting part about all of this, is that it's not even like for political aims. Not when it comes to American propaganda nowadays. Like, it's easy to identify, say, propaganda coming from Russian intelligence. Like that tweet that we just looked at. Okay, that's obvious bullshit. You know, oh, the Russian intelligence, you know, Russians say that the West was involved with this terrorist attack. It's obvious bullshit. It's easy to spot. You can dismiss it. This kind of propaganda is not so easy to spot. It's much more insidious. And the proof is in the fact that 40% of the country is basically buying this shit hook, line, and sinker. It's funny how that all corresponds to, you know, Trump supporters, right? Donald Trump has basically 40% of the electorate who will be his base, and they'll just vote for him no matter what he does. They sort of correspond to Fox News viewers. What a coincidence. So anyway, folks, I don't know. It's fucking ridiculous. There's no conspiracy here. A boat lost power, it hit a goddamn bridge, the end. And it's just really just sad and, I think, despicable that so many people can make money by spreading lies about anything. And that's the funny thing, is that it could be anything. It could have been, like, pretty much anything that happened this week. Anything that had a body count. Any kind of tragedy that occurred. These fuckers will like, you know, it doesn't even really have to be a tragedy. Just any kind of item that happens in the news that has a slightly negative outcome that they can blame on Democrats, that they can blame on liberals, or that they can blame on DEI or something. It'll get used for their propaganda purposes. And that's just the world we fucking live in.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.